Yo, what up guys? Welcome to a new weekly review video. We're gonna do Euro USD this week. Again, just like last week, I asked you guys, what do you think the next weekly candle will do? I saw some good predictions. Make sure to comment down below as well what you think this weekly candle is gonna do, and then we'll review again next Sunday. But for now, we're gonna talk about the market maker models. So how to trade an MMXM correctly. And I will show you, of course, the screenshots, how I took my trade and my team took the trade as well. But before we start off, we need to establish a higher time frame narrative, right? So where do we do that? We do that on the higher time frame, right? So let me just remove all the drawings and the alerts so it looks clean, right? So what are we working with on the weekly time frame? That's the first thing we want to ask ourselves. And where are we in the monthly candle, right? So it's almost the end of the month. So this is the second to last week of the monthly candle. The first 2 weeks of the month, we ran up higher into this fair value gap, right? The weekly closure didn't really indicate that we were gonna go lower. However, if we go to the daily, we have a little bit more information, right? So you guys are probably familiar with external to internal range liquidity concept. I have a video on my channel about that as well. If you guys watched my entire course on YouTube, you should have caught this trade because it's just textbook how it all played out, right? So we have external range liquidity being taken out up here. What sets the stage is that we can go to internal range liquidity, right? Now, just because we take out a high doesn't mean we're gonna go bearish, right? You wanna have some sort of confirmation. So Friday closed like this, right? It looked like a nice rejection candle, and then you don't know if Monday will trade lower. So I waited for Monday to pass, and if we zoom in a little bit here, you can actually see Monday's candle was a bullish candle. We hit this fair value gap, and then it looked like it might have respected it, right? I was very wary about this. I was not confident at all that it would go higher from here. And if you guys know why, let me know in the comments. I will show in the end of the video why this fair value gap is not a good fair value gap to use. But then I waited again, right, for Tuesday, see what it does. And we closed bearish like this. Now, ideally, when you want to look for an expansion phase, you want to see closure below previous daily lows, right? That's what you kind of want to see, because then you're clearly in an expansion phase. Let's look at DXY for reference. Remove all the drawings here as well. We can actually see this is Tuesday's candle and we closed above Monday's high, right? But opposed to Euro where it did not. We always follow DXY as our backbone of our analysis, and then we find the relative strength in an asset that we want to trade, which is in the DXY basket, right? And I typically only trade EU and GU. So for me, it was EU this week, and that's also based on Euro GBP going lower, right? So this was what I was expecting, lower. I always feel like Euro GBP does whatever it wants, but I felt like higher time frames should go lower, so EU was the play for lower. Now we have established after Tuesday that closure is good for lower, even though it didn't close below the low, but we have DXY. Let's look at the 4 hour, right? If you want to trade market maker models, you want to have an original consolidation, you want to have a clear draw on liquidity. That's important. Otherwise, you have nothing to aim for, right? And I don't trade the smart money reversal. This is the smart money reversal up here, right? Because this is where price actually declines. Then we formed a displacement leg with a fair value gap. And from here on, it doesn't mean we're going to go bearish, right? Because we're still doing this. It's still just making it could still do this, right? We don't know. That's why, as you guys know from my course on YouTube, the free course, I always like to wait for a low risk sell to print first and then trade the next leg that comes out of it, right? So if there's another expansion leg out of here, I try to position myself in that leg going down, right? So we've formed this low risk sell here. Let me make this gray. And then we have these lows down here, right? And I consider this as a original consolidation. So this was my aim for the week. The draw on liquidity. We didn't meet all the way to the lows. That is okay. That doesn't matter as long as you can catch the distribution inside that move down towards your draw on liquidity, because it's not about I want to exit below this low. It is about exiting at your risk to reward versus your win rate, right? I have a video on that as well. It's very important. You don't need to go all the way to the lows. You need to secure at 2R, you need to secure at 3R, depending on your win rate, of course, and that's how you make money. It's not about going all the way to the lows. So let's go to the 1 hour. And now we have to divide up our days here. Let me just do that quickly. Right, so I've divided up the days here from Monday, starting over here, right? Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Friday is here. Let me add one more line. This is where Friday ends, right? So this is Monday, and actually Monday was, believe it or not, it was actually very good how they build up all the liquidity, right? Because you have to view price. If you want to go for an area of low resistance, you want to see that slow build up going higher, and then typically there's a faster move going down. So they build up all this liquidity over here, right? And that makes it just a lot easier to trade lower because there's a bunch of low resistance liquidity. We've established that this is the 4-hour fair value gap, and also that we have a low risk sell here, right? So now we're trading a market maker model. We wait for the low risk sell to print so we know on what side of the curve we are on. We want to have a confirmed sell side of the curve, and this makes a trade opportunity a lot better. So let's zoom in on Wednesday, because that's where I actually took the trade. And I let Tuesday pass on the closure, right? And we have a confirmation on this one. Now, there's nothing here for us to look for a key level. And even on the 4-hour, doesn't look that good anywhere here. I don't know where I should look for a trade. This is where you wait for a previous session run on liquidity, right? So we have Asia session highs and these highs up here. So we run that, and then you want to trade a CSD OB. That's the thing where you find a high probability CSD OB is using previous session rate, and ideally you have SMT on it as well. We did have SMT on these highs. So if I mark that up here, these highs up here, and I think DXY took them out, or GU actually took them out, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, so GU, this Thursday, it's Wednesday. Yeah, so over here, right? So we ran all these highs, while EU did not run these highs here. So that's SMT, and then the most beautiful thing happened, right? We IFEG. Use IFEGs as a confirmation tool for a change in order flow, right? We can see price declined. We closed below these up close candles here as well. And this is literally where I took the trade, right? I took a short once this candle closed, waited for the wick to go, the wick of the 1-hour candle to go up a little bit, put my stop on the protected high, which is an SMT high. And then at 2R, I just closed it, right? So this is the end. This was the setup. And you can see why I'm not aiming for all the way to the lows. I'm aiming for 2R. And you can see the price is completely reversing over here as well. How mad would you be, right? That price went into your profit and then it goes back all the way to break even almost at the end of the week. Just take your 2R or 3R, whatever risk to reward you're using versus your win rate. And that's how you make money. So let me quickly pull up a screenshot. Okay, so I've got a screenshot here, and let me just quickly outline that I'm not cherry picking, right? I've got all the executions here that you guys saw in the previous 2 weeks of weekly review, right? The buy I took for the entire weekly range. Then last week I took one loss, and this week here's the execution, right? Like I just said, on that 1-hour wick here, and then I closed at 2R here at the bottom of this candle. And that was the trade setup, right? So I'm not just cherry picking results here. This is like 3 weeks in a row. You can see the executions. Okay, so over here we've got the Discord, right? And I'm just gonna show you how I guided everybody through this entire move up, right? So we had another weekend gap with the Iran war, and now we're gonna do the market outlook around candle closure because I wanted to see what happened here, right? I don't know if it will dip in discount, right? As we can see here, I don't know if it will go here or if it will just push up and then drop. If it pushed up and then dropped, then I would definitely not look for sells on EU because then DXY might have a bearish weekly profile. And here we got that confirmation, right? As I outlined in the market outlook, that the low risk buy is being formed here. And this is obviously inverse from Euro USD, right? So we're looking for these highs up here. And like I said earlier, you just take your 2R or 3R. Here it's about riding the distribution, right? And then over here, I was waiting in London. We ran those previous session lows, waiting for this OB to be confirmed. So we have low of the day set. Then updated them that the price is still over here doing nothing inside the 1-hour candle, so we're gonna wait, right? So it's still sitting in the 1-hour candle here. Then low of the day should be set here. New York continuation from this OB, and then over here, nice tag into the OB. We actually went into the IFG here as well. So if you want to have a better entry, obviously you can wait for that, but I don't want to miss the move, so I just take the OB. And then we go to majors. That's where the Euro setup is present, right? So over here, this is where I entered. then I'm just gonna hold, and this is where 2R is, and this is where 3R is, and I closed at 2R, and here you should be up more than 2R. Then apply your own risk management. So I closed here, right, as I send this in, and I thought this was a beautiful week. Let's see what next week gives us. Make sure to comment down below what you think this weekly candle is gonna do. Anyway, we'll touch back at next weekly review, which is on Sunday or Saturday, depending what time I have in this weekend. But if you like these weekly reviews, as always, make sure to subscribe and like, right? It helps out the channel. And I will catch you guys in the next weekly review.